It's Nobel Prize material. You're going to be rich. You're going to have grants all over the place. That is a worldview altering or worldview confirming event. And to play it up as if there's some anti-creation science thing that has taken over the world and won't let the truth come out, it puts you in the tinfoil hat group.
So, I mean, what is the center of evolution anyway?
What do you mean?
You know, the first thing I've heard of in evolution is the Big Bang Theory.
That's not part of evolution.
Can that be proven?
The Big Bang has nothing to do with evolution.
The theory of evolution by natural selection begins after life formed. It has nothing to do with universal origins, and it is only loosely tied to abiogenesis in the fact that we need some explanation for how life formed in the first place. Evolution deals with how creatures evolve over time.
Okay. And I will admit to you that I have not even really scratched the surface of studying evolution. But, you know, that's why I'm asking, what is the real center of it all? What does it wholly stand upon?
Evidence?
Yeah, I mean, no, not just evidence, but what was the initial thing that started the study of evolution really and truly?
The observation of the diversity of life and an attempt to come up with an explanation for it. And the evidence continued to point in the direction that small changes over vast periods of time can account for the diversity of life on the planet.
Right, and, you know, the thing about it is, do y'all guys believe in the Big Bang Theory?
Well, that's a weird phrasing, but I'll just say yes to save time.
And have you witnessed it?
No.
So
obviously.
Isn't that just accepting it without any...
No.
No.
No, because you know, look, the evidence for a God, the evidence for God is like visions, you know, and dreams and claims of divine visitation and things like that. The evidence for the Big Bang is like, you know, carefully measured, carefully taken measurements of the natural forces in the real world.
Yeah,
the kind of evidence that supports it is completely different.
But what you're asking, and this is why I'm saying that, you know, you've fallen prey to creationist arguments. It's so typical. They're teaching little kids to go into their science classroom, and as soon as somebody starts talking about millions of years, the question they want them to ask is, were you there? And that's exactly what you just did. And I'm going to, as nicely as possible, explain how absolutely asinine that is. You touched on it earlier in the, you only know who you weren't there, you have no evidence that your mother was there. And I said, yes, actually there is evidence. You can do DNA testing, and that is the confirmation. It doesn't matter if I was there. I didn't witness Jeffrey Dahmer kill a bunch of people, but that's the conclusion that the evidence leads to. So yes, I accept that in fact he did. I wasn't there when George Washington became the first president of the country, but the evidence leads me to conclude that that historical account is most probably accurate. And in the case of the Big Bang model, that is the result of a lot of math and thought that said, what is the explanation for the origins of the universe? And it's not like once we got the math somewhere we liked it, we just stuck with it. No, it was a model that made testable predictions, and then we went out and we did things like building the Hubble telescope and other instruments that allowed us to measure the microwave background radiation and confirm that the model was in fact accurate. I didn't have to be there to have sufficient evidence to believe that it is the best scientific explanation of origins. And what I find particularly amusing is that the creationists who want to ask, were you there? Most often they are particularly evangelical Christians. Were you there when Jesus was resurrected?
I wasn't there, but...
What evidence then do you have to believe that it actually happened?
And this is where theism is different from, I guess, say,
it is, because you don't have evidence.
Where accepted by faith, but there are physical examples where you said that they're none, but that's not true.
The difference between theism and science is that for things that we weren't present for, science relies on evidence to lead us to the best possible conclusions about what happened. And religion relies on something other than evidence. Why? Because they don't have evidence. Faith is the excuse people give when they have no good reason for their beliefs. If you had a good reason, you wouldn't need faith.
Right, but you said right that there's no physical evidence for creation, but that's not even true.
Yes, it is. Or you have the floor. Tell us what the evidence for creation is.
There are many of them, as I stated earlier, from excavation digs. There's also the account of the Ark. There's also Mount Sinai, which
account of
which
the Ark?
account? I mean, they've found the Ark 40 times now, and none of them have actually found the Ark. And by the way, finding an old boat.
The Ark of the Covenant, which is in Israel's economy,
wow.
in terms of the sanctuary and all that.
Wow.
They found it in Indiana Jones, the first movie, too.
This is not. I'm not even about the Indiana Jones. This is from studying it myself.
Yeah. No.
And there's
you really need to check. You really need to double check the. Excuse. I'm sorry.
Wait. Go ahead. Mount Sinai. What?
There's Mount Sinai, which the Bible says became smoke when God came into contact with it.
Okay. So what? How does that? What does the existence of Mount Sinai have to do with the truth of the Genesis account of creation?
What I'm saying is, you said that there's no biblical account or there's no physical examples for creationism, but there.
What does Mount Sinai have to do with creationism?
No, I'm saying that the state of condition of Mount Sinai now relates to what happened when God came down upon Mount Sinai.
Okay, first of all, that is asinine, but what does it have to do with creationism?
What I'm trying to say is that if Mount Sinai is in this condition that it is now, based on what was said in the Bible, then it proves it to be true.
No. Wow. Okay, how did you demonstrate that Mount Sinai is in a state that is necessarily the result of God coming down to it? How did you prove that scientifically?
Okay, one, there have been shows done upon it.
Shows done?
Okay, documentaries.
Documentaries? Wow.
Yeah, I know for a fact, at least one of the documentaries, just getting back to the Ark, at least one of the documentaries about the discovery of Noah's Ark showed a piece of wood that was fabricated by a skeptic who was approached by filmmakers to make this thing. And what he did is he took a piece of railroad tie and various household ingredients, including teriyaki sauce, and he soaked this piece of wood in those things and then handed it over to the filmmakers, who were just not interested in where he got it or how he made it look like that. They were only interested that it looked good, and then they put it in their show and said, this is a piece of Noah's Ark. Noah's Ark.
I'm more interested.
And that skeptic got an award from a skeptical organization for pulling off that stunt.
But ignoring the Ark, I'm interested in this thing. You're saying that Mount Sinai is currently in a condition that can only be explained by God actually coming down to Mount Sinai, and you think that this is scientific?
Because listen.
No.
When things are burnt, they're left in a charged state.
Okay, but burning does not prove God came down.
Because how can you explain a mountaintop that big?
There we go.
Like that?
There we go. Now we are to the core reason that you have bought into every moronic claim that you've presented today. And the answer is one great big argument from ignorance. The mountain is in this state. How else can you explain it other than that God came down? That's a logical fallacy. It demonstrates that you have no basis for saying this. It is in no way scientific. You are basically saying the mountain's here. It looks like once upon a time it was smoky. That's consistent with the Genesis account. Nobody's got a better explanation. Therefore, that's what I'm going to believe. I can't begin to explain just how unscientific and dangerous that is. That is how we have come up with every wrong-headed, moronic, asinine belief that we've ever had. Oh, lightning bolts, they must, can't think of a better explanation. This guy down the street says they must come from Zeus, therefore I'm going to believe that they come from Zeus. And it's, we did some investigation and we found out that we can direct them with, little rods. If we stand there and chant to Zeus, he'll strike us with lightning. I mean, it's that type of thing. You are saying Mount Sinai looks like it got burnt and therefore the biblical account is true. That is not following the evidence, that is leading the evidence.